Wow.
Regarding
You did research on me. Wow.
Yeah, one of my favorite calls that he's ever made is I'm calling both games right now call.
I see him pull out some athletic tape, puts it on the ball, and he grabs the Sharpie and he writes, "Shut up," and then he signs it. Tom is an emotional guy. This guy gets on the mic and he's like, "Beers on Fox," and they just start handing out beers.
It's crazy how you can have players like Shaq, many other celebrities on the sideline. Still pretty sure Livy Dunn would get me the most nervous walking around there. Your relationship with the Chief, he's known around MSU media.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about that for a
I
little
totally
bit.
forgot about them.
Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Joe Des Hour. Today, I have Owen Oszust sitting across from me right now. Not an athlete this time, but the person who covers all the athletes around campus. Owen, you've been everywhere around here so far. Very exciting episode that we're looking forward to. I apologize, I've been gone for a couple of weeks. Started covering women's basketball for Michigan State. That took up most of my time. But now we are back. We are with Owen. Excited to start this off. How are you doing today, Owen?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about back when you were 12 years old, Holly Fournier of the Detroit News interviewed you.
Wow.
Regarding
You did research on me. Wow.
Regarding the Detroit Tigers. Did that kind of start your interest in sports journalism?
Wow. That caught me off guard because I was not expecting you to bring that up. But I mean, I want to give the backstory of that too a little bit as well. So basically, I grew up, I love baseball. That was my sport growing up. I played that all the time, that and basketball. But like, I would go to a ton of Tiger games as a kid. Very fortunate to went a lot with my grandparents and my dad as well. And it was 2014. The Tigers, obviously, very good team back then. You know, all those Cy Young guys in the rotation, and then they were looking to clinch the AL Central Division on that last day. We had been 2 days before, and they didn't clinch it. And then it was the last day of the year to clinch the AL Central for the Tigers. And I went with my grandpa, my dad, and my cousin, and they ended up doing it. It was awesome. And we were just walking back through the park to go back to our car or whatever. And all of a sudden, like, this reporter stops us. And she's like, "Hey, could I quickly interview guys about, like, what was it like inside and everything like that?" And I gave all these great quotes according to Holly. I don't know what she's up to now. I would love to reach out and talk to her because obviously I've changed very much. But I mean, that honestly was a really cool moment of being interviewed for something like that makes you feel special, you know, and that's something that I want to do as a professional, you know, and that it was very early. I don't think I realized that at the time that's what I wanted to be, you know. But I think it was a big step towards that because it was just that emotion of seeing my name and face and everything like that in this article. I forget, was it the Detroit News or Detroit?
Yeah,
Free
Detroit
Press?
News.
Detroit News, yeah. And that having my name in quotes and everything, and they're talking about me, and I'm like, I guess, sort of famous to 12-year-old Owen at the time, was really cool. So it was crazy.
Yeah, it's funny looking back at moments like that where you can't tell that's going to be something you do in the future. Now you're on the opposite end. You're interviewing a bunch of different people. What has been one of your favorite experiences you've gotten so far from sideline reporting?
From just sideline or just in general?
We'll talk about the rest later, but for sideline right now, the
sideline.
interviewing.
You know, I honestly, one of the best sports for sideline that I've enjoyed covering here has got to be gymnastics because our gymnastics team actually is a lot of fun. Just the opportunity to interview coaches in between rotations, like Coach Rowe. He's always been very nice to me, really nice guy. And then also, you know, the gymnasts after got the opportunity to interview Nikki and Nia Smith. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I had never even thought of doing two gymnasts at once. And then it was Annie that was like, "Hey, you should do both." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." And it worked out. And then I ended up doing it again with Justina and Celia Gaynor. So yeah, I would say also when women's soccer won against Iowa, that was, what was that, early October or late October. I forget what time it was, but you know, that I thought was really cool as well. Just those sort of moments where you can really just be in the moment and see everything is awesome.
You were talking a second ago about you interviewed two gymnastics players at the same time. I saw that you're a Kevin Harlan fan. One of my favorite calls that he's ever made is I'm calling both games right now call. That one is so good. Yeah. What are other broadcasters that you kind of look up to and kind of just learn from?
Well, I've been very fortunate to be able to shadow a lot of those kind of broadcasters and stuff like that. So I work Lions games most days. I freelance with them for home games. So like, just a Sunday ago when Chicago was with Detroit, I was on the sideline with Christina Pink, and she was awesome. I told her, like, I want to learn as much as possible. She was giving me all these kinds of tips and that sort of stuff. And, like, one of the things about sideline reporting I don't think a lot of people know is that reporters are kind of like investigating down there. You're sneaking around looking at things and stuff like that. Like, there's obviously a medical tent for a reason on the sideline. That's where they put the athletes when they're hurt and everything like that. And then the trainer goes in there, and she taught me to kind of look through. There's like a little slip in the tent. You kind of look in there, see if you can see anything, and then obviously when they come out, you got to be ready to see if they're good or not. And like, it's interesting to watch body language. She taught me that as well, and I think those kind of things where if I can pick up from little things from reporters and stuff like that, and just take it to my own kind of broadcasting ability, I think that's always a plus.
It's nice that she taught you the in and outs of the industry, some things that you wouldn't learn, like looking through that little hole in the tent. A lot of people wouldn't assume to do that.
Right.
When you're on the sideline, has there been any unique or crazy experience that you've seen face to face? Not in the medical tent, obviously. I assume you're not just watching someone screaming in there.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Oh man, there's plenty. I would say, that same game, there was this guy. He was a Lions fan, one row behind the Bears bench. And man, this guy was relentless. Like I've seen some fans yelling and stuff like that, but man, this guy would not stop talking. Like he's like DJ Moore, you suck. DJ, you haven't done anything. Like that kind of thing. And then Justin Fields throws the long touchdown pass to DJ Moore. He catches it, right? And obviously they celebrate the touchdown. Brings the ball back to the sideline. I see him pull out some athletic tape, puts it on the ball, and he grabs the Sharpie and he writes, "Shut up," and then he signs it. So it's like those sort of things. And then he hands it to the guy, and everyone on the Bears bench is just dying laughing because they love it.
That's so awesome.
And honestly, I was laughing too. Like, that's hilarious. Like those sort of things, some people I don't think realize, like, you can definitely hear fans that are loud like that close. Like, I'm right next to the athletes on the sideline, and man, you can hear people chirping, definitely. It usually, and for like Michigan State games, I would say it's harder to hear sometimes, with like the outside noise and everything like that. But on offense at Ford Field, like, obviously they're going to be quiet, so you can hear random fans yelling at the away team. So.
Yeah, I always wondered if the actual athletes kind of had a thing where they could block it out if there was some soundproofing around there. But after hearing that story, that is so much better.
Oh, dude, no. Like in like that same game, like that guy's yelling at everybody. He's yelling at St. Brown for the Bears, and he's like winking at him. He's like, "Why are you winking at me?" It was so weird. Like that kind of stuff. Like, oh, dude, athletes, they definitely are always about that sort of thing. Like, I remember it was Bills Lions. And there was a Lions fan chirping the Bills players or whatever. I forget which Bills player it was. It might have been Ed Oliver or something like that. But he just like all of a sudden snapped and like ran up to the edge of the wall or whatever and started screaming at the dude. And like security had to pull him back or whatever. So it's like, yeah, like those sort of things happen all the time at Michigan State games, because I'm on the sideline for those. Like, obviously first row and the student section, they're always chirping, that sort of stuff. Some guys are more creative than other guys. Like some of the stuff they're saying, I'm like, that's so stupid. But some are pretty good. And most of the time, the special teams guys are in that like net area kicking into it. So obviously they're the closest to the student section. So the special teams guys get targeted a lot with like that sort of stuff. Yeah,
special teams guys have to deal with a ton just right next to the crowd. Mm-hmm. When you see the athlete interactions, as you just said, some are really uncreative. Yeah. When they do actually say a good line, though, it's like, I gotta respect that one. Have you ever seen the video of Joey Bosa right outside just getting heckled by fans?
Yes,
right? He's going.
Yeah.
felt so bad for the guy. He had to start bringing up his bank account to the guy because he couldn't fight him or anything.
Yeah, no.
Has to be the weirdest feeling. You're like
Right.
6'6", you're 300 pounds. You could easily dominate the guy, and then you just have to take it because it's your whole career on the line.
Right.
One athlete experience, or technically not athlete experience, one fan experience I want to talk to you about. Meeting Ken Jeong, front row, when he was at Michigan State. How was that experience?
Oh, it was very cool. I mean, that was definitely one of the coolest days of my life because you're talking about 2021 Michigan State, Michigan, here at Spartan Stadium. I was obviously fortunate to be on the sideline for that one. And you have all these guys at these Big Noon Kick was on the sideline. You have College Game Day. So it was so hectic, so crazy, but all these celebrities too. And Ken Jeong was there, and I love him in The Hangover. There's quite a few different movies that he's really cool in, and he's a funny guy. So I was I had to make sure I wanted to get a picture with him, and I did. And then it was my one experience with him. Michigan State was in the process of making their comeback. I think it was in that fourth quarter, and they had just scored a touchdown, and then the 2-point conversion to Jaden Reed in the corner of the end zone to the side. It was kind of an iffy thing if it was the Michigan guy or Jaden Reed that had the catch, and they were going and looking at it or whatever. And I asked Ken, and he's I was what do you think? Who got it? What was the call or whatever? He's oh, I didn't even know if they were looking at that. So I don't know how much his of football knowledge was, but really nice guy, very cool. I saw him interact with some other people as well, but he was very, very nice, and that's always what I like to see. Is those kind of people that have done so much in their career and that sort of thing, but they're really down to earth.
Yeah, for Ken Jeong, what's pretty funny, he's been a recurring character somehow on this podcast. Have you met Karina Prieto? Do you know her? She's in the same
Yeah. Yep, I know her, yeah.
Interviewed her a couple of episodes ago, last year now at this point, but she had done America's Got Talent. She had gotten the golden buzzer from Ken Jeong, is what's crazy.
That is crazy. That is wild.
All lines up. The same thing as what we talked about earlier with you getting interviewed at 12 years old. Some things line up a way that they're not supposed to. That's one of them. So while you've been around so many professionals, you've done Spartan Media Network, you've done a bunch of different things throughout MSU, throughout the entire sporting world now, what have you really learned from being around that professional experience?
I mean, I've learned a lot. I think there's a lot of things, even in school, that you can't be taught. Obviously, for journalism, I think it's very important to get out into the field and get as much experience and connections. That is the biggest thing. I have learned connections is king. I think so many people overlook that sort of thing where they think just talent can get you all the way, which I think is something that's a misconception because we see it. People are always how does this person have this job? They're not very good, sort of thing. But it's because they knew somebody that could get them to that position, and that's what happened, So if you can find somebody that can connect you with somebody else, and it just continues, that sort of thing. I think always being humble and nice to everyone as much as possible is a big thing as well, because you learn, especially working as a runner. I've worked at so many different levels of different places, the lowest possible level for Fox Sports and, broadcaster, BTM Plus, and that sort of thing. You really learn that you want to treat everyone with respect, and everyone's jobs are hard. It's real, everybody's got to do their own thing. To think that, their job's easy, you should try doing it, it's that sort of thing. But yeah, I think, I've done so many different things and places, but all those connections to those different entities where I got set up was because right here, WDBM, it was my freshman year. And just to show you how connections are important, I met Ian Gilmore. He's now working over there in Indy, but I met him here, and he was the one that introduced me to Matt McCullough, with BTN Student U, and he gave me Matt's phone number, and then we got connected through that. That's how I got started there. And then once I got started there, I met Hikaru Kudo. I broadcasted, my first ever broadcast here at Michigan State was gymnastics, which, kind of full circle moment, but that was very cool at the time. It was only me, Hikaru, and Matt was the crew. And, we did it for free because they weren't paying at the time, but it was still very cool. And once Hikaru saw how passionate it was, that's that sort of thing. He decided to reach out with the opportunity to be a runner for a Lions game my sophomore year. And then that's how I got connected with Fox, met all those people there. And it just really took off from there, because once you have like Fox Sports on your resume and all those other things, then other people are like, wow, how did you do that sort of thing? And that's how I did my summer internship with WDIV, and then, on and on from there. So that sort of thing of connections are king. You just never know. Somebody might know somebody that you just like aren't suspecting. Like they might be a low-level person, but they're like, oh yeah, well, I'm really close with, Tom Gores or something like that, and then he could get you a job. It's those sort of things that you really don't expect, and then they just take off from there.
It's crazy seeing the connections that just come through together like that to make the path that you've walked so far. I had lifted with this girl for about a year. Didn't mention anything about this to me. One day, out of the blue, she starts talking to me about how one of her uncles is one of the main sports producers behind Amazon Sports. I just met that guy a couple of days ago. Took an entire year to get told anything about that. But it's crazy to think about how the random people that you talk to, random people that you befriend, can lead you to a different path that you weren't heading on before.
Right.
And that's one of them that you saw so far. With those connections, you were able to meet a bunch of the coaches around Michigan State, such as Tom Izzo, a couple other coaches. What is being around those coaches, and how has that affected your viewpoint when covering their sport?
Yeah, I mean, Tom is awesome. I've had a lot of really cool experiences with Tom Izzo. I think taking lessons from them is very important as well. Obviously, I'm not spending all day with them, but I still have those experiences. And Tom's always nice to say hi. Like I was on the sideline for the Michigan State-Penn State game, and he quickly said hi to me, that sort of thing, and went on his way. But for Tom Izzo, I think a lesson that I've taken from him that's important is really enjoying the moment. Tom is an emotional guy, and I've really learned that quite a few times, like Michigan State, every year, he always will sit on the bench and get emotional because he's really taking in that moment. I think he's so good about realizing, like, this is my dream job. This is where I want to be. I'm living it. I want to enjoy it, sort of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of hard work and everything that goes behind it, but like, man, this is a cool moment. And like, I've now started doing that as well. Like, being on that sideline for the Bears-Lions game, and everyone around me is chanting defense, and like, it is loud, and it's given me chills because I'm like, wow, this is a really cool moment. Like those sort of things, just soaking in the moment, even if it's the smallest thing. Just realize, like, hey, I'm not going to get this back, sort of thing. Like, I'm 21 right now. All of a sudden, I'm a senior. Like, I remember it felt like yesterday I was walking in Impact as a freshman, like not knowing anything. And now all of a sudden I'm a senior, and it's flown by. So, like, to cherish every single moment, even if you're not where you want to be yet, but like the process. That's something where Tom also talks about. And I have this cool video I made that I clipped from one of his radio shows. He talks about the fact that so many kids nowadays want to just get to the top and, skip the process. But he's like, I wouldn't be where I am right now if I wasn't taping ankles, doing all those small roles and assistant coaching jobs to get his way to the top, because then you really realize and appreciate when you are at the top. So getting that work in and putting that grind is honestly the best time, that sort of thing. And then when you get to the top and to your goals, like, I think that's when you realize, wow, this was all for it. And like, it really makes you appreciate all that work and hard work you put in.
Yeah, the problem that has really arisen has been the instant fame that people achieve, whether it's through TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. They skyrocket right to the top of their field. But like you said, it's more about the journey than the destination. When you're looking back from the top and you're looking back at all the steps that you took to get there, it's so much more rewarding than if you just magically appeared right at the top position.
Right.
So for you, Owen, while you have been working on this journey, you've gotten a lot of different experiences. I want to touch on the journalists again a little bit right now. You've written plenty of articles, whether it was for news stations, whether it was for MSU itself. What has been one of the most rewarding experiences you've gotten through the writing side of journalism?
Writing side, well, I would say it probably would be through Impact. That's kind of how I got started, was on the women's basketball beat. I wasn't even originally on the women's basketball beat my freshman year. I think they only had three. It was like Zach Sardenik, Darren Baydoun, and Bobby. I forget Bobby's last name. But the two of them were seniors, and Zach was obviously the freshman. And I started writing articles and stuff like that here, started board opping, and that's where I got my foot in the door sort of thing. And then it was Luke Salone that reached out to me. I remember it was Christmas Eve. He texted me and was like, hey, would you like to cover the Michigan State and Wisconsin game on Christmas Day? Because no one else wanted to do it. It was Christmas Day, sort of thing. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I had never been to a Michigan State basketball game before that moment. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, that's super cool. And just from there, obviously, I still have the picture on my phone of like them warming up and stuff like that, like as my home screen, because it makes me remember all that. That's where like I was like, wow, this moment is so cool, where you don't like bury it with all these other moments of, yeah, like this is still a very cool moment of working games, like it's so magical, I would say, in a way. Even when the team or game is terrible, you're still in a really cool moment that a lot of people would want to be. So I think that's what is very important, that you realize, even if it's not something you totally want to do, you're still there in that moment, sort of thing.
You talked about soaking in the moment. You mentioned it a second ago, but just appreciating everything that comes to you. Mm-hmm. How much did the COVID year affect that for you? Because you didn't have anything like you have right now. It was all shut down. How much of an appreciation do you gain for stuff that you have now?
Yeah, I mean, let's get deep right now. Like, so obviously, it's for the context, for my timeline, it was my senior year of high school. And also, I did 88 Won the Park, so that's how I got started with actual like journalism, that sort of thing. And that's where, obviously, I got connected with Impact, sort of thing, because I had already done some radio stuff. Because I got to call play-by-play for football and basketball for those games, because I went to PSEP, is what it's called, Plymouth Canton Salem. So there was a ton of opportunities for games, stuff like that. But so senior year hits. It is about, obviously, February going into March, and then the pandemic hits. We're done, and obviously it sucked. No prom, no all of that kind of stuff that goes with senior year, skip day. Graduation was the drive-through where you literally just drove up, walked up to the podium, they handed you your thing, your certificate, and then you walk back to the car. Like, it was that's it. Like, a lot of people during my time didn't get, obviously, a real graduation. Obviously, smaller schools, they probably spaced them out and stuff like that. But I went to a school where there's 1,500 kids in a graduation class, so that was never going to happen, sort of thing. But then summer hits, and it was August, and me and my friends are really excited to move up here. I was actually supposed to be in this building, Holden Hall. I had it picked out with my roommates and everything like that. And then 2 weeks before, I was at my friend's house, and we got the email from Stanley saying that they weren't going to send us to school. And we were just all very upset. We were so sad that senior year had really been taken from us. And then now our freshman year of college is going to be taken from us as well. And it was sad, because Michigan went up, but Michigan State didn't. And I felt like that we had been robbed, sort of thing. And I was not happy with Stanley at the time for making that decision, because I just felt like, we still could have done it. And obviously with the proper precautions and stuff like that, we could have done it. But nonetheless, we weren't up here. So I was stuck at home doing online classes. Like, first day of college was in my basement, on the Zoom class, which is sad. And obviously no sporting events to work either. And that was my dream. That's why I got into what I wanted to do. But I think also I would not be right here with all these experience and everything like that if that did not happen to me. I think the biggest lesson that I learned during COVID was everything happens for you, not to you. I think that's very important, because you can either say, like, why is all this happening to me? Why is my senior year being canceled? Why is my freshman year of college online and I can't go up there and experience what college is like, sort of thing? Or what can I do to learn from this, sort of thing? Why is this happening to me? Like, is this a moment where I can learn a lesson from it and really value going back to living in that moment? Like, I still won't forget, that memory of not being able to go up here and have those experiences my freshman year of, college, that I was like, dang, like this sucks, like, like honestly, like full truth and everything like that. It was one of the first times I had ever experienced depression being at home my freshman year, like first semester. Like it was so tough just sitting. There was nothing I could do, like it was just so much anxiety that I felt like I was missing out, and who knows what, like I was like, I'm not getting the proper experience out there and learning to actually be able to go out and get a job one day, because I was just sitting in my basement with no control of everything, So it was very frustrating. But then that's where with Impact, it was like November-ish when basketball starts, and there was opportunities to board up. I board upped like one of the Michigan State football games, and they called it over in the room over sort of thing. And that sort of thing where I was like, okay, I'm willing to do anything to get opportunities to come here and everything like that. So I would drive an hour here, hour back to home, like multiple times, because there's obviously nowhere I could stay up here, and just working games that way. And then from there, I realized in December, they had made an announcement that like they were going to allow 5,000 kids in the dorms. You had to apply, give reasons and stuff like that. So I reached out to some people that I knew and was able to get into the dorms my second semester of freshman year. And from there, I was able to work sporting events with no competition, basically, because like obviously everyone else is either at home or they didn't want to work because they weren't paying, that sort of thing. So then I got so many opportunities because of that, and that's where I got ahead. That's where like that lesson of, where I'm just sitting in my basement feeling hopeless. Now I'm like ahead of everyone else, and that's how I really felt like I got that jump start because of COVID. And that's where I feel like if not for COVID, I would not be in that same position, sort of thing. And I really got to prove to myself, to like Matt, that I could broadcast, and here at Impact to also get ahead with the women's basketball beat. So it's like all those sort of things reflecting back. It feels so long ago, but it was very important to go through that, even though it was a very tough time and I was depressed and everything like that and still figuring everything out. Like, when I was up here in the dorms, I was only here for a semester, but, because of COVID, we had no roommates and stuff like that. And it was tougher to meet people because some people weren't willing to open their doors when we first moved up. But I was able to find a good group of friends up here and make some friends. And I had some friends from high school also that were in an apartment, and I had some really cool experiences. Like I look back at freshman year, like we never were able to do a lot of things, and we went on like a shutdown my freshman year. You're a year younger than me, right, Joe?
Yeah, 2 years, so sophomore year.
Yeah. So like like there was at one point when I was up here where we went on a complete shutdown. So like you could only be in your room for 2 weeks. Like it was like a whole thing. It was crazy, right? And I'll never forget like what we did to hang out, in each other's rooms. We would turn up, like we'd be like playing 2K on the TV, turn it to full volume so it's really loud, because if an RA caught you in someone else's room, you'd be kicked out of the university, sort of thing. Like it's very dangerous, but like you're being driven crazy because like you want to hang out with other people and stuff like that. So it was like 4 of us in a room, volume fully up, and like we're like, was that an RA? Like sort of thing. But that sort of thing, like those moments where you look back where it's like, that's crazy to think about. It still is very cool sort of thing,
Yeah, none of that stuff seems real. The fact that you couldn't just hang out with your friends in your freshman year of college, you had to sneak them into your room and play 2K at full blast. Back then, those are such formative years too. Senior year cut short. You didn't get an end to the childhood at that point. Mm-hmm. Freshman year, late start. I don't blame you for getting depressed at that point, because it's just all culminating at one point where you're starting to think, am I ever going to reach that next level, or am I going to be stuck in this mindset until COVID's over? And you didn't know if it was going to end at that point.
Right.
The fact you're able to come in with a positive mindset in that second semester, get leaps and bounds ahead in front of people, that's huge. So many people wouldn't have done that in that situation. It's huge that has led to where you are now, and that mindset is just massive because you really don't see that often. love the story about people sneaking out of the dorms. Back during quarantine, I would just go on a bike ride, claim that I was just going to clear my head or something, meet up with like 5 different people in the center of town. That's what you had to do back then.
It's so weird, and like people and kids when there's actually, to our point now, I think aren't going to realize that sort of thing. Like it was a very strange time. You know, I look back and it's like, is that even real looking back? But like now I'm thankful. Like obviously we're back to normal and stuff like that. But man, that was strange. But like you said, like the fact that I was showing and willing to actually go out and do that stuff and work all those different events for free, I think showed a lot of people that, you know, I'm willing to work hard. You have to show people that. That's a big thing in this field, in any field, that you want to be able to show people that you're willing to do the work, sort of thing. If you can do that, I think you can gain a lot of respect from a lot of people.
Yeah, no one's going to be able to know what you can do unless you show them what you can do. All that hard work has led you to meeting some pretty cool people. Mm-hmm. Troy Aikman, I want to talk about that experience. How was the conversation speaking with somebody at his caliber broadcasting?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool people. I mean, so Troy was really cool. Got to work with him. 2021 Thanksgiving Day. That was back before, obviously, he left Fox and is now at ESPN. He introduced me to his daughter, sort of thing. He was a nice guy. I've met... I don't think there's a lot of people that I've been starstruck with, though. But one of the coolest moments, and it's not even broadcasting, I just wanted to bring this up. It was 2021, that Michigan State day. Were you a freshman at that point?
I was a senior. I didn't even know I was coming to Michigan State at that point.
Yeah, okay, so you weren't even here. Yeah, so, like, that's crazy because, like, obviously football team's good. Just the atmosphere. You could feel that buzz on campus. And it was the day before. We had some friends come up from Michigan, and we went out. It was actually my first ever time I went to the great establishment of Harper's here in East Lansing. And I knew Big Noon Kick was going to be there because one of the people I worked with at Big BTN Student U worked there or whatever. And she kind of tipped us off that they were coming. And so we got there very early, got there at like 8 p.m. Bar was basically empty at that point. Nobody was there. We were so like terrified to go in. But as the night progressed, they did like costume competition, stuff like that. But then it was time where the broadcasters came out. And if you know Big Noon Kick, at least at that time, it was Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Brady Quinn. And like, so each of them would come out and they would announce them and they would come running out. It was really cool. And then Reggie Bush comes out, biggest ovation sort of thing. Place is going crazy. And then this guy gets on the mic and he's like, beers on Fox. And they just start handing out beers. And I'm grabbing beers. I'm like fisting them. It was crazy, that sort of thing. Like, I'll never forget that sort of moment. Like, Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush are handing me beers. And I'm just grabbing them. And I'm like, wow, there's Heisman winners handing me, you know, beers and that sort of stuff. Like, it's crazy. But those sort of moments, you know, I always look back, but like I've still made so many great memories, and I'm still going to make so many great memories. Like, you know, you talked about Aikman, but there was, I forget which, it was Amanda Renner for CBS. It was Bills and Browns. Remember when they had to move to Ford Field because of the too much snow in Buffalo? Well, I got to work that game at Ford Field. And basically, I was with Amanda, and she had to talk to Stefanski at halftime or whatever, coming out of the locker room. So we waited near the Browns locker room, and then they come out, and obviously they're like walking and talking with Kevin Stefanski. So it's Kevin Stefanski on my left, Jacoby Brissett on my right, and the entire team behind me. Like, so I got that moment, that small moment of walking out and feeling like an athlete, like, you know, sort of thing of like, wow, this is really, really cool sort of thing. And I was like, yeah, like I'm never going to get that sort of moment again, but it was so surreal sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, I was about to describe it as surreal exactly. Something that doesn't feel real until you get back home, you start lying in bed, and you're like, this day actually happened? Right. This is crazy.
Right.
The Reggie Bush thing made me laugh because he was the guy that people probably chucked beer to when they saw him on championship parade and stuff. He's handing it out to you now. That is such an awesome experience, man.
No, he's such a cool guy. And like, I've never really ran into a broadcaster that is just a total douche, at least that I've worked with. And I think they're all really cool, and that's something that I want people to continue doing, sort of thing. You know, don't be too full of yourself and just live in the moment, sort of thing, and be humble. No matter how high you get into this industry, you realize that you obviously had to start from the bottom too. So just be appreciative of students and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of different industries where people will try climbing over each other to get to the top. It's been nice that broadcasting isn't really one of those.
Yep.
A lot of people treat it as either we all make it or none of us make it a lot of times, it seems like. How has there been anybody who has helped you in your broadcasting career that you would kind of like to just point out right now?
Are you talking about advice-wise or just like actually getting me to where I am?
Either way, either someone who just kind of built you up advice-wise, as you just said, or somebody who pushed you to where you are right now.
Well, okay, I would say, so I mean, at basically every entity I've worked at, I've gotten some really good advice, and I think it's always important to ask for advice. Like when I was with WDIV over the summer, which is the NBC station in Detroit, I asked a lot of people there, especially the sports people, like Hobie Artigue. He's awesome. He's a guy from Louisiana, went to LSU, and he had his journey, and he was very open and honest with me of talking about the fact that, you know, he was about ready to give up, and like literally that big job offer and big break to go to a Minnesota market, which is very high, came like literally the day before he was about to give up, sort of thing. And it's like, you know, even if you think you're about to give up, maybe just give it one more day, sort of thing. You know, that sort of advice. Jamie Edmonds, she was awesome to me as well over the summer. You know, there's been so many great people of like, even if they just met me, they're willing to give, like Christina, give great advice, like always open. I love to learn and just, you know, shut my mouth and kind of learn and take those notes of, hey, maybe I want to do that, or maybe I want to do this my own way, sort of thing. Like, I think it's very important to take advice and ask for advice. Don't be shy to ask for it, because a lot of people are willing to give it, you know. People love talking about, like, what they learned, and, you know, obviously, I've made a ton of mistakes. I made some last night, like, you know, I want to learn from them. I think it's important to be willing to make mistakes as well, because if you're not willing to make mistakes, then you're not putting yourself in situations to actually make those mistakes. You know, if you're just too scared in life to actually put yourself out there, then you're never going to go anywhere, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where 15 seconds of confidence can change your entire life if you step out of your comfort zone. A lot of people don't do that. When you were finding your broadcasting voice, stepping outside of that comfort zone, was it something that came naturally to you, or do you have to build upon that over years of experience?
No, I mean, it is years of experience. I mean, I remember the first ever time I broadcasted a sporting event was with 88.1 The Park, which is the high school radio station that I was talking about. And basically, I was like literally in class. The guy that's in charge walked over to me and was like, hey, do you want to call the football game tomorrow? And I was like, wow, you know. And at the time, you know, we're at a school that's got 6,000 kids, and, you know, parents listen, that sort of stuff. So there's a good amount of people that did actually listen, which was cool. So there was definitely pressure, and I felt that pressure. I'm not going to lie. I was very nervous my first time, and I was only a color analyst for that game. But then from there, you just build up your confidence and just, you know, I'm still doing that at the moment. Obviously, it's a little bit different with sideline and actually being an anchor as well, sort of thing. So I think the more repetitions you can get at anything you do, like even in the gym, more repetitions at a higher weight is better, and you're going to get stronger, sort of thing, and it's going to make you better. And like the more reps at broadcasting, it's the same way. You get more confidence. You realize that you have to also be willing to look back at yourself and like, hey, this is what I need to do better, sort of thing, and ask people to look at it as well. So yes, reps is very important. Ask for advice, and you'll kind of see it come together. Like if I looked at myself freshman year, I would definitely cringe at myself. You know, it's that sort of thing of being able to learn and be more outgoing, sort of thing, and try to be as charismatic as possible and be conversational. Like, to be yourself is very important. Don't be somebody that you're not, you know? Like, don't try to be Gus Johnson. You know, Gus Johnson is Gus Johnson. He's gotten to where he is because he is. You're not going to be Gus Johnson. You're not Gus Johnson 2.0. There's 5,000 other people trying to be Gus Johnson. Just be Joe Does, that sort of thing. So I think that's important, to be yourself. You can take stuff from other people, but don't try to be them.
Yeah, you don't want to be a 2.0 version of everyone. Mm-hmm. You want to be the first version of yourself. That is extremely important advice for people to follow. really easy to get sucked into not being yourself on camera, not being yourself when you're broadcast, not being yourself when you're doing sideline reporting. When you've was there any period where you had to adjust to that, where you were trying to copy somebody, or was it? I feel like everyone goes through that at some
absolutely.
point.
Like when I was in high school, I'm not gonna lie. Like I would watch Gus Johnson, I would watch Kevin Harlan, and like literally tried to just recreate them, sort of thing. And like my boss called me out really quick on that. He's like, "I can tell you're trying to be Gus Johnson." He's like, "Don't do that. You're not Gus Johnson." So like, yeah, it's very important to not like I think everybody and young broadcasters try to do that. Like obviously getting started out, you want to try to find who you are, and I'm still trying to find that too. But you look at like professionals anywhere, and they've got their own kind of style and rhythm and that sort of thing. And they're all not very, but they are very small bits and pieces there and here and there that separate them, but they're also very good at the same time,
Yeah, back in my senior year of high school, I announced one of the football games for my high school. Mm-hmm. I can remember basically perfectly. I used a line directly from Madden 21. I realized it right after I sat. I went, what am I doing, man? Right. This is not real at all. I'm copying a video game at this point. You got to be yourself. Mm-hmm. You brought up lifting a little bit ago. I like the analogy that you made where when you're in the gym, when you're doing repetitions, you think of any tiny thing that you can tweak, any tiny thing that you can make better for the next repetition. Right. Same thing for broadcasting. You're thinking about the tiny things you can shift, even if there's something that people don't really see and they're under the layers. How long has lifting been a part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, obviously I lifted in high school for baseball, but then I got really serious during my sophomore year. I was like 160, decided to just start eating a lot of chicken and ground beef and ground turkey and stuff like that. My roommate's a big lifter as well, and I got to like 195, and that's pretty much where I am right now. And it really took off. But I think, and Rogan talks about it, Joe Rogan, a lot, is like, even when you have those anxieties, and especially like when you're working high stress jobs like broadcasting and you mess up and stuff like that, it is always nice to go to the gym after, even if it's 30 minutes, an hour, whatever you need to do to go get that lift in. It kind of, you feel great. You feel like that anxiety and stuff like that has been lifted off. Like obviously I've gone through times where, I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated with where I'm at and sort of thing. And, maybe class isn't going good or, like other things not going good. Obviously the shooting is a frustrating time that happened here last winter. I went to the gym a lot because, it's a sad time. You got to distract yourself sort of thing. And that's kind of how you get it away. Like, I think it's very important that everybody gets physical exercise, no matter what it is. You don't have to lift weights, but if you can do cardio or whatever you need to do, get moving, be physical, move around, and you feel a lot better. I think that's very important. Kind of lifts up my mood, and especially being in sports, you want to always try to be as optimistic and happy, especially when you're broadcasting, because most of the time it's sports. You're that escape for people from like normal news to go and be at a sporting event for them to watch. You want to be as happy and energetic sort of thing. And I think lifting is very important to put yourself in that mindset where you can bring that to other people.
Yeah, no one turns on a sports stream just to see somebody be sad about the event they're covering. Yeah. That never happens.
Unless like the MSU shooting versus like Indiana game, that's meant to be sad. It's a very different thing. You have to realize those tones, but yeah, most of the time it is happy.
Yeah, certain situations definitely, but most situations people aren't turned on for it to be a depressing thing that they're watching. Right. But lifting is really one of the best therapeutic things that you can do for your mind. Mm-hmm. People don't realize that we're not built to have our heart rate resting constantly. We're not supposed to be sitting on couches. Yeah. A lot of people think it's stupid when you talk about the biological stuff, but we used to be hunter-gatherers. That's a real thing. Yeah. People were running around constantly. They weren't sitting down watching TV all day, scrolling on their phone. You need to raise your heart rate if you want to feel just calm, feel natural. Mm-hmm. It's a thing that's needed. You talked about Joe Rogan a second ago. Have you ever seen his thing talking about bison, trying bison? Yeah. Tried bison a few weeks ago. It's good. So good, man. Yeah.
Really?
Actually, one of my favorite meals to make now. It's really good. You'd be shocked. You try ground turkey. You said it's kind of like a sweeter ground beef. Mm-hmm. Very similar to lamb. Not bad. I actually enjoyed a good amount.
Try it. Yeah, I've always wanted to try that. Obviously, he's a big bison guy. Yeah. He'll eat that a lot. I forget what else he eats, but those sort of things. Like, I'm always open to trying new things. And like a story. Do we still have time to talk?
We got plenty of time. Okay.
Yeah. So 2 weekends ago, I went down to LSU with my dad and two friends. And I've never been to the state of Louisiana before. Went down there, and it is very much different from around here. But I like that sort of thing, you know. I've been in Michigan my whole life. Maybe after my first job, I might try to see where else there is. But like, you know, I got to go and experience LSU for the very first time and experience what an SEC environment actually is like. And I'll tell you right now, like I'll say this on record, everything like that, Michigan State will never compete with that sort of thing. The funding is just different down there. The commitment and like people talk about how loyal this fan base is, which is very true for Michigan State, but LSU is just different, man. It's just different. Like when I was down, have you ever been to an SEC game before?
I've never actually been to an SEC game. I've heard about it. I know the Bible Belt. It's like there's God and then there's football right under it. That's how it goes down there.
Dude, it is true. It is very much true. We went down there on Friday, and we went to New Orleans for a little bit, and that was a very cool place. Obviously, very different than like Detroit or anything like that, but it's still a very cool place. Then we went to Baton Rouge, and like it's the night before, and the traffic is insane, like because everybody's coming in. It was LSU Florida, the game I went to, which is it's a big rival for LSU, and basically. Like Shaq was in town. I don't know if you've heard about this, but he DJs.
Yeah, I have seen a few videos of that, yeah.
Fred's, which is the name of the bar. They basically for LSU, you know, obviously here at Michigan State they have you know, one strip of bars or whatever like that down Grand River. At LSU, they call it Tigerland, and it's literally just bars. And Fred's is one of them and is one of the biggest bars in the country. I am not kidding you when I'm talking about thousands of people are there, massive tent, Shaq is there, and one of the coolest like things I've ever seen of like the amount of people and commitment, and then Shaq DJing was insane, and that's just Friday night. And then we wake up, we go back to the hotel, wake up, go to Baton Rouge. It's the kickoff for the game was at 6:30, I believe, and basically, we woke up at like 8 a.m. and we went to the tailgate at 10 a.m. And they're starting at 10 a.m. And I forget what it's called. Jambalaya.
Yeah, jambalaya. You think
jambalaya.
Yeah,
I've never had that before. I didn't really know much about it. I'm telling you, every tailgate there is cooking that, and it's a process. And you know, I talked to like a bunch of different people about it, and you know, it's like 4 hours of like preparing it, stirring it around sort of thing. And I am telling you, it was amazing, Joe. It was freaking amazing. There, like the tailgates there, oh my God, like, just the setups. Like we're talking just to be around the stadium, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to reserve a spot for like the entire season. And these people went all out. Like it is so cool, the stuff that they're doing. Everybody's playing country music sort of thing. You got college football on every TV around, you know, every game like Michigan and Penn State were playing. And it is just everywhere, that sort of thing. Like basically like I was talking to like the people at this tailgate, right? And we had just met them, and they're like, yeah, like, and we're saying like, oh my God, like everyone's so friendly sort of thing. And they're like, yeah, well, I mean, literally you probably could go up to any tailgate, right? And ask, you know, could I get a drink or whatever? And if you ask nicely, they're going to probably say, yeah, like not even knowing who you are. Down South people, like I thought Midwest people were nice. Down South people were so nice at Louisiana. Like, oh my God, it was unreal. Like the hospitality of just like being around these people. Like, and then we went and saw, they're like, yeah, you got to go check out the Tiger Cage. We're like, there's a tiger. I didn't know there was a tiger cage, but it's by the basketball arena. We go over there, $2 million exhibit for their mascot to live in. And like, it is unreal, dude. Everything, like just the buildings there, super nice. Like the campus, unreal. And then like, obviously here, you know, there's people tailgate at like frats and like stuff like that. Well, at LSU, it's called the Parade Ground. It is just this giant field, and it's just LSU people and students everywhere. And we're talking like the whole university is there. It is so cool. Like there's just tents everywhere, people walking around. The atmosphere is different. It's warm all year long there. Like it just felt like I was like, I probably messed up going to Michigan State. And like the journalism school there, I don't know very much about the journalism school there, but like the journalism school is throwing a massive party. Like I was like, oh my God, dude. Like it's right next to the football stadium. And right there, like you look up and journalism school, massive. Like I was like, holy crap, dude. It was unreal.
Yeah, you were in football heaven for a little bit, Owen.
Oh my
God.
God.
Debating every choice you made.
No, like actually, like, dude, you like I was like, yeah, it's probably gonna be pretty cool going into the weekend. And then when I got there, it was like surreal, and I'm like, dude, I don't want to leave, sort of thing. Like, yeah, like I don't regret going here because of all the opportunities I've gotten and that sort of thing. But like to go to LSU would have been really cool. But like down south, you could just tell it was different. And like I got the opportunity because we met some people at a tailgate. We met Will Clapp's dad, who was the center for the Chargers, and he was like, this is your first time being in here at LSU or whatever. I'm going to get you sideline passes for warm-ups. So, of course, me being Mr. Sideline for a bunch of games, that sort of stuff, I was like, let's go. I want to experience what it's like to actually be on the sideline. Unreal, dude. Unreal. Like the amount of celebrities, too, you got walking around. Taylor Lewan was there. Like Shaq was there. Saw Livy. I make eye contact with her. It was like, oh, that's Livy right there. And then I looked away, but I was like, dude, that was so cool. It's just surreal. And then the fact that like an hour before the game, like here might be half full, maybe a quarter full, something like that. It is completely full an hour before. They're singing songs. The atmosphere is just different. Like it's like unreal. Like they are eliminated from a college football spot. They're not going to make it in. Obviously, Jane Daniels probably going to win Heisman because of that Florida game. But like surreal. Like the students, very committed. Everyone, like it's very different. Like every guy has like a polo on, like LSU polo, khakis, and like the girls are wearing dresses and boots and stuff like that. So it's like you're almost dressing up for like this big event, and like the tailgating scene just surreal. Like I'll never. It's just never, no Big Ten school. And, I've been to a couple because I've gotten to travel to a couple of state games and stuff like that. And, like, went to the Washington game. I just did not see that anywhere. Like, there was some cool, like, boating stuff and, tailgating. But, man, like, LSU is just on a different level of, like, SEC is different.
The South knows how to do football. I've got to check out LSU next time I get the chance.
Dude, I am telling you, please, and I recommend it to anyone. Like, even if you like hate LSU or something like that, go to Bama. Like I would love to see what it's like to compare like those kind of places. But LSU, like, would be very cool to work at or go to a game. So you definitely, if you got to check off boxes of SEC. There people are like, no, like there's no way. It's not as cool as the Big House or whatever. I'm like, I'm telling you, dude, the Big House is not even close to what LSU is. Like you're looking at the stadium and it looks like an NFL stadium. Like I think there's honestly NFL stadiums worse than LSU stadium because they have so much funding. Like their donors are very committed. And like everyone's so committed that because they're so proud to be an LSU alum. And obviously a lot of people are proud to be MSU alums, but they're not as willing to donate to that sort of thing. So that's the difference.
Yeah, we've got Ishbia. I'm not sure too many others are donating to the sports programs. For LSU, it's crazy how you can have players like Shaq, many other celebrities on the sideline. Still pretty sure Livy Dunn would get me the most nervous walking around there. You'd be shaking the way.
Dude, yeah, I was like, there. I've never really been in a moment where I was like, holy crap, that's so-and-so sort of thing. And I felt like I was pretty casual talking to Ken Jeong or whatever, but that's like Livy Dunn, and she's so big because of social media. But yeah.
It's crazy how normal people can seem like just such big figures because of that stuff. For Louisiana, Theo Vaughn reigns from there. Mark Norman reigns from there.
I was hoping, and that's where I was hoping that he would be on the sideline. I was looking around for him, and I was like, dang it, dude, he's not here. Because, man, if I met Theo Vaughn, like, I would lose my stuff. Like, I would be like, dude, Theo, like, you are my hero. You're so funny, dude. This is just the random stuff he says that makes no sense. It's so funny.
Yeah, he is one of the biggest comedians right now. Him and Shane Gillis have started to reach the top of my list of comedians. Who are your favorite comedians, would you say, if you had to give a couple?
Yeah, Theo, I love listening to Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer as well. Obviously, Joe Rogan is very good as well. Shane Gillis. I mean, there's a lot. Tim Dillon, I like it as well. I think there's a lot of really good comedians out there. And that's another thing. Like, I love comedy of, like, I'll put it on a podcast whenever I'm driving to or from work or somewhere to cover a sporting event and, like, just listen to, them talk because it's just so funny. You just, that kind of, anytime you can get an escape from life, comedy is a great way to do that. It's
so good. Some people don't realize the impact that comedy has. Tim Dillon, I love that you mentioned him. I saw him in Clearwater, Florida a couple months ago. Or it was, I forgot the exact town, Florida, but it was one of the, like, really rich places. It was near Jupiter, I believe. I'm butchering the geography. I'm not the best with Florida geography. It's somewhere in Florida, though. Yeah. Very cool experience. But comedy shows, like, people love concerts. People love sporting events. They don't realize comedy shows are some of the most fun things to go to. Have you ever been to one in person?
I have not, and that's another thing where I want to eventually check that off my bucket list. I've been doing that a lot this year, like going down to LSU sort of thing, and doing these different sort of things that I never really, you always think of doing. I think that's like, if you have the opportunity to do it, I think you should do it sort of thing, like you only got one life, live it to the fullest. Like literally one of the biggest lessons I have tried to take is, obviously we have one life, and whether you have regrets or not, you want to, at least when you're on your deathbed, have as few regrets as possible. So, like, why not just do it?
It's a tough thing to realize, but yeah, you don't want to be 60 years old thinking about all the things you missed out on or all the people that you wish you talked to. You want to be thinking about how much gratitude you have for the life that you lived and the reason that you made it there.
Yeah.
Love to see that you have that mindset, Owen. Before I let you go, is there anyone that you want to give special thanks to for helping you out to reaching this point, supporting you all the time? Any shout-outs that you want to give?
I mean, there's so many shout-outs I could give. I want to tell one quick story. So, like, one of the coolest things I've ever done was because of Fox Sports and working a Lions game. So what they do for broadcasters after games, they have to quickly get them out. They call them escape drivers or whatever, because basically, for whatever reason, the broadcasters book their flights as close to the end of the game as possible. So you have to get them from Detroit to the Detroit airport. Most of the time, because I'm just a runner, I don't have to even worry about that. My job is to get them to their car as quickly as possible. And then once I do, they, whatever happens, sort of thing. Well, a person got sick one time that was a escape driver, is what they're called. And basically, they're like, somebody needs to fill in. They're like, can you do it? And I was like, dude, this is like, the cars that they got are very nice vehicles owned by Fox Sports. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I have to drive this really expensive vehicle. Like, I'm very nervous, and I'm like, sure, I'll do it. Why not? Right. And it is one of the coolest experiences ever. So, like, there's, like, some producers and stuff like that, very highly important people in my car. And, basically the way it works is you have a cop car in the front, and then you have like 3 cars in the middle, and I was the third car, and then you have a cop car behind you. And basically, cop cars turn their sirens on, and everyone's supposed to move out of the way. So I am going like 80 miles an hour, because you have to stay very close to the car in front of you, or else somebody might try to get in or whatever like that, or keep going. So you're riding the other person in front of you on purpose, and they understand that sort of thing. So, like, you are going like 80 miles an hour through the streets of Detroit, going as fast as possible. Like, going on like a roller coaster, you get that kind of like adrenaline of, oh my God, sort of thing. That was the same thing of me driving this car for Fox Sports through the streets of Detroit. Luckily, didn't crash, anything like that. But, like, man, the adrenaline rush was still going like an hours after me doing that, because it was just like, holy crap, dude, I am driving this hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of vehicle for Fox Sports, driving very important people, and like, I hope I don't crash sort of thing. It's just going, don't crash sort of thing. But yeah, that was like one of the coolest moments of like, once again, like, man, I could have just said, nah, I can't do this sort of thing. And I was like, screw it, I'll do it sort of, and it was one of the coolest moments of my life.
You got to say yes to every opportunity like that. You didn't even know a day before that you're going to be doing that, Owen.
Yeah.
And during that day, you got to drive a European car, I assume. You got a police escort. You're driving highly important people. That is really a testament to why you need to take the opportunities that are given to you. I love that story. That's so awesome.
Yeah. No, like, and back to your like original thing of giving thanks, like literally every entity I've been at, there's been awesome people. I think it's very important to have mentors as well. Like, I mean, I've worked for a lot of different places. Like, you talk about Spartan Radio, like Dalton Shetler. He's awesome. He's the women's basketball play-by-play guy now. He's been really, really cool and just taking me under his wings sort of thing, of learning a lot of things, giving me opportunities, being very open to the ideas I've done. I talked about Hobie with WDIV, him and Jamie and all the producers there that I worked with. WILX, like, now I have a full-time job there. So now they're training me to be a sports anchor, and just like Joey Ellis, Fred Human, Tim Stout, like those kind of people of teaching me once again. I know it's frustrating to teach once again a young person that doesn't know a lot sort of thing, trying to learn as much as possible, of trying to get better, and and obviously if you've been around, you have to do that with quite a few people, but being patient with me, and trying to get me as many opportunities, that sort of thing. I really appreciate that sort of thing. Even at Woodward Sports, like have you ever listened to Woodward Sports? I entered in there my sophomore year, but a lot of funny people, Easy and Spencer, the heavyweights, like just going on there, being myself, being more open. I think they taught me a lot of valuable lessons. Like, I literally could keep going. My mom, dad, grandparents sort of thing, and all the people here. Like, I talked about Ian Gilmore, Zach Sardenik, Hikaru. You could go on and on. Of L.A. Dickerson has been very important. Like, all the journalism professors here at Michigan State have done a really cool job of getting us out. You just have to ask them. I think some people don't ask, and like L.A. Dickerson, she is always willing to give me recommendations and help me find people, because I'm willing to show that I work hard, and that like it's her reputation on the line as well, to recommend people for positions and to show that I'm so hardworking, and that it kind of backs up her word as well, that like, hey, like this student is really, really good and really hardworking. You should give him a chance. And then once I can prove that, like, then it just only validates her word sort of thing. And, and I think that's very important. I take that with, a grain of salt, that like I am also backing up L.A. Dickerson's word and Dan Dickerson and that sort of stuff. So like that sort of thing of always trying to prove myself is very important.
It's nice when people put their trust in you and you actually come through. While you were giving thanks, this reminded me of one last question I want to touch on before I let you go, Owen. Your relationship with the Chief. He's known around MSU media.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about that for a little bit.
I totally forgot about them. Yeah, I mean, Chief of Propaganda, I can't reveal.
Yeah, you don't have to reveal his identity.
Looks like. I can't reveal what he looks like, but I will say, Chief is awesome. Chief is one of the coolest guys I know. He used to go to Michigan State. He's an alum here. I forget when he graduated exactly. But very supportive of Michigan State. That whole Twitter, there's a whole, one of the cool things, I don't know if LSU has this, like we just talking about LSU, but like Michigan State, very active on Twitter. There's a lot of very passionate people. Maybe they're not, able to donate as much money sort of thing, but they're willing to put themselves out there for recruits and that sort of thing. Chief is a big part of that. Justin Thin is awesome as well. Like my my junior year, so last year, I would drive up every Wednesday and help out with the SD4L show. And so I would have dinner every Wednesday with Chief of Propaganda, Justin Thin, and Brian Mosalem. And those three, we had a lot of really cool experiences. Like the fact that like Matt Ishbia was there one time, got to have dinner with him, like those sort of things. And like one time Steven Adams was randomly at the table next to us, and like he was staring me down, and I was like, that's Steven Adams. With like open his toes are out, whatever. He like flip flops on. It was just because he's a massive dude, and he like is just eating by himself at a table, just like looking at people. And I was like, that's Steven Adams. What the heck? But like those sort of cool things. So I've done like a lot of like I don't want to brag, but like I've done a lot of those cool things because I'm just willing to put myself out there. I had to drive an hour and a half to Birmingham every Wednesday, but man, it was so worth it to learn all these experiences and that sort of stuff of making those connections. And Chief is one of them. And, whenever they are able to shout me out on Twitter or that sort of thing, I think is very, very cool. I always appreciate the love, and I'll text Chief. I should text him more. I'm always busy, but, he is always optimistic. Sometimes maybe a little bit too optimistic, but you know what? He's chief of propaganda. That's what he's got to do, sort of thing. So you know what? That positivity really does lighten up a lot of Michigan State moods. I always find it funny whenever his tweets, like he had one the other day about Jonathan Smith in his first meeting here at Michigan State, and he's like the something about the tears of joy and everything like that. It will ring through the halls of Michigan State for years to come or whatever. Like I don't even know where he comes up with this sort of stuff, dude. But he's so good. Like and like he'll at people like. The other day, he added Red Savage and was like, I hope Red Savage is having the best day ever or whatever like that. Like that sort of stuff. Like he's just, he's a really cool guy. If you ever get to meet him, don't reveal his identity, but that's sort of his thing. Very nice. I know Jack Hurt knows him as well. But he is a very nice guy. Very, very wealthy as well. Has a very cool car. He's got one of those cars that like doesn't have handles on them. So I'm like, wow, yeah. Like the first time he drove me, I was like, what the heck? How do you open this sort of thing? But he's a very cool guy, very smart as well. And all those people on Twitter, Peach as well. I got to give him a shout out. I can't forget about Peach. He's very awesome as well. I had dinner with him a few times as well. And he's always giving me shout outs on Twitter. MSU Twitter is something that like past, football coaches and, people that work behind the scenes really value because they do make a difference on recruiting of, not, you don't want to say like getting in their ear, but like, hey, this is reasons why you should come because of how loyal this fan base is. And you prove it on Twitter, also gaining followers, and they really value them. And I think Jonathan Smith should value them as well because social media is a big part of getting, recruits to Michigan State.
It's huge. It's a massive thing that Michigan State's able to utilize social media game. Chief of propaganda, there's a reason he's called that. He knows how to sell his message.
Oh, yeah, dude. Very good at it.
Yeah, so good at it. He has a post talking about you, Owen, where he says, everyone at Michigan State will know Owen Oszust by one day. I hope that this episode is a beginning start to that for some people. I want to thank you so much for coming on, Owen. You have done so many things, met great broadcasters, ate dinner right across from Matt Ishbia and Steven Adams. You've done countless adventures, countless journeys that people have not gone on because of what you've been willing to do. That has taken you the step above other people. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you all for watching episode 33 of the Joe Does Hour. Check out Owen Oszust as his career continues to bud. Thank you so much for coming on yet again, Owen. It was great having you.
So I ended up starting a podcast about 12 weeks ago, so beginning of the season,